Hey everyone, Teen off the No Barfield here. Welcome to Writer's Corner. So as of late, I've been pretty busy. I've been calling places, working pretty regularly. I met my uncle, and that was awesome. We had a great time, and I can definitely tell that we're related. But since I've been writing more regularly, I've been paying more attention to the technical things. Like whenever people over-explain things in writing. Guess what we're going to be talking about today? Now, if I even just mention this, it commonly prompts, I don't over-explain things! I'm not saying that you over-explain things all the time, or that you do it frequently, or anything like that. I'm saying that eventually, sometime in your writing career, you will probably over-explain things at least once. Now, why is over-explaining dangerous? Well, I mean, it's not dangerous, but it can definitely make writing a little more tedious and annoying. First, it can create a bad habit of wanting too much description all the time, having this constant need to fill up blank space, where if you see a blank page, you're like, well, I could have stopped last time, the last page, but this chapter could go on for another 45 pages, so I think I'm gonna do it! You don't always need to. Now, some people have told me, but I am an underwriter. I don't over-explain things because I can barely fill up a page. Not true. Even underwriters can over-explain things, and it's even more noticeable for them. At times whenever I'm not feeling inspired, my story just kind of drags on. Even though there's like not a lot of content there, it just feels all unnecessary and repetitive and overdrawn, and so it feels like I've over-explained everything. And that is what you want to avoid, even if you are someone who commonly, during the editing phase, you're adding stuff to your story instead of taking away. Now, long or complex descriptions and big explanations have their place in your story, just not all the time in every single area. Now, it's not enough to understand, like, okay, yeah, this can potentially hurt my story or make it really annoying to read, but what happens whenever you write an entire book and then you have to go back and like, okay, where have I over-explained? Well, there are a few places that you're more likely to do that, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the averages, than most other places, and as I've been beta reading more and more, this just continues to back up my hypothesis. Now, a big place where you'll commonly run into over-explanation, either in other stories or your own, is in character descriptions. I've said it before, and I will say it again, you don't need to describe characters all at once. A lot of writers think, alright, these two characters are meeting, they need to know everything physically about each other all at once. Not always the case. Think about it. Whenever you meet someone, are you like, alright, I know exactly the shade of their skin, their hair color, I know all of the little freckles on their face? No, you're like, okay, I probably know their general hair color, some facial features, maybe eye color if you take a look at it, and probably what they're wearing. Yeah. So you don't immediately know everything at once about this other person. So you probably don't need to go on for 4 paragraphs about the physical description of one character whenever we probably got the idea after you said they had chestnut hair and tawny skin. And if this character comes in more and more, you can drop in details and stuff over time. And I think this works best because as we get more intimate with this character, we have a more complete description of them over time. Another area that's commonly over-explained is the specific environmental details. A lot of writers get tripped up at this point because they think to themselves, well, okay, I have a ninja running across my tree branch, so I need to describe the whole tree branch in accurate detail, so the readers know exactly how the ninja is maintaining her footing. Not always the case, okay? So unless it's something that's very, very important to your story as a part of the environment, or it's setting up the whole entire scene or possibly chapter, and you need to accurately describe the mountain face so that we know just how difficult the summit is going to be, or if it's something that we don't commonly run into, you may want to describe it a little more because these specific details are going to be important, but you don't need to describe every single one or get tripped up on the things that we can commonly picture. One of the things that I have the biggest problem with over-explaining that I've noticed with other writers as well, that takes a lot of work in my opinion to get used to, is character actions. This is a big problem for me because I like to create heavily detailed action scenes where there's lots of stuff going on and I like to detail everything step by step so I can clearly picture it. However, this gets problematic over time because your fight scenes get really laden down and they just get way too heavy, they get fat. And so it's really difficult to help move the story along whenever you have these fight scenes weighing it down. Thankfully, I have beta readers to point out whenever I do this, and I'm learning. Slowly. So keep a particular eye out for your action scenes, especially if you're new to writing action scenes and you may over-explain because of ignorance or lack of knowledge, Or if you're a big action scene fanatic, and you might over-explain things because you like explosions a little too much. And sometimes, almost completely by accident, you can end up over-explaining the whole friggin' story. Fortunately, there are a few easy ways to avoid the dreaded over-explanation. This seemed to work for me and most people that I know. Now the first thing harkens way back when to the beginning of my video whenever I was talking about character description, remember? So what you want to do is try and describe something as if you just got a glance of it. This means that whenever your character is running away from the crooked cops and notices a rundown apartment building, it's probably all you need to say. The few important details that they would notice before they run into it and try to climb the rickety flight of stairs is probably all the detail you're going to get. Now one thing that has really helped me and writers that I know or that I've met is to use adjectives in place of long descriptions or explanations. But thinking of fitting adjectives that can take the place of this long description that you're trying to create might be one of the best ways because it saves time and it also creates a much sharper image, in my opinion, than trying to explain it with drab or oftentimes commonly used words. Whenever you have this BAM! Amazing adjective that sticks out that most people don't run into, so like, wow, I remember what you said about that because it was a word I didn't recognize at first. One of the most useful exercises that I personally find, especially whenever I'm speaking, but whenever I'm writing as well, is to try and see it from the other person's point of view. Think about whenever someone else is explaining something to you, say perhaps a dashing young writer. Do you get it after the first sentence? The first two sentences? Or do I need to keep talking for another 15 minutes just so that you have the clear understanding of what I'm trying to say? If you view it through the reader's eyes and you think you may have accurately described the impending doom of the situation in the first 3 sentences, you may want to cut out the other 6 paragraphs. Now this next bit is a little contradictory to what I've been saying, but occasionally, let yourself go nuts. Just go completely crazy. Woo! Yeah! Over-explanation, alright! Super long descriptions, run-on sentences, amazing paragraphs that stretch out for pages! Give yourself complete and total freedom. Get it out of your system. Occasionally, this is what you need to do. Sometimes I'll stop working on one story and I'll just write this super long detailed description of something that I've seen that day just to get that out of my system. And then I feel kind of worded out. Like, alright, yeah. The house is fancy. Moving on. Though I stress to really only do this whenever you feel like it's absolutely necessary, like if you've hit a roadblock where you've just been restraining yourself for so long and the words must pour forth from you. If that's the case, then go ahead. Lastly, pay attention to your writing. Whenever you're in the zone and not the auto zone, you may not be aware of all that you're writing, you just know that it's probably really brilliant. But it can be helpful to, after you finish a sentence or you complete your thought, to take a moment and stop and actually read what you wrote. Have you talked about this already? Have you gone on it for the past 2 pages? Analyze it and take a moment and think, did I really need to write that? Just because you can write something doesn't mean that you always should. Nothing is better than just taking a moment to read your own writing. So at the risk of ironically over-explaining how to not over-explain things, I think I'm going to end this video now. But before I completely shut it down, a few words about me and my writing. So be sure to check out Legendland's Tale of the Nameless God on Wattpad. I think it's doing pretty great. I have 2 chapters out and a prologue, plus a constantly updating character and weapon guide. I've even started listing the songs that have inspired that particular chapter just so you know what screamy death music I was listening to whenever I wrote that beautiful dialogue scene. And speaking of Legendland, the original Legendland, this fantastic piece of literature right here, is available on a plethora of places. It's available on barnesandnoble.com, Amazon, iTunes, Smashwords, my publisher's website, and my website, www.arc-storm.com. And if you order it from there, I'll sign it with non-invisible ink! There's also a vast cornucopia of places to stalk me online. Find me on Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, Wattpad, and YouTube, obviously, where you can comment and subscribe below. Now I hope that this video has been helpful, that it hasn't dragged on for too long, and that you continue to enjoy.